Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today we're doing another episode of NBA Hot Takes. It's been a while since we've done one of these videos. I think the last time was leading up to the NBA playoffs, so it's probably been a couple of months. So I decided we should go ahead and talk a little bit about some of your hottest takes. I asked you on Twitter to drop me some, and I want you to go ahead and drop your hottest NBA takes for this offseason, for next year, the NBA draft, anything basketball related in the comment section below, and I'll react to as many as I can. Also, follow me on Twitter to look out for tweets like this for the chance to be in one of these videos. Let's go ahead and get into the takes. First up, we have Riley, who says that Jalen Brown will become a top 10 player, and I'm guessing he means going into next season, but we can even discuss further than that. Real quick, I do want to say before I get into this take, I think Jalen Brown has become a bit underrated by most NBA fans. Recency bias is a really real thing in the NBA, and I fall victim to it quite a bit as well. But I think people are going a bit too overboard with the Jalen Brown takes. I really don't think the Celtics need to ship him out the door ASAP. They've made so many conference finals with him as their second best player. He just made an all-NBA team, and sure, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money, but Jalen Brown is really good. He's one of the best shooting guards in the entire league, and him and Jason Tatum have had a ton of success together so far. Now, do I think he's a top 10 player or will become one next season? No, I just think the league is a bit too talented at this point, especially when you talk about some of the young guards in the NBA, and of course, there's plenty of established talent as well. Off the top of my head, guys like Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Giannis, Steph Curry, Luka, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm definitely forgetting a lot of people. Damian Lillard, Devin Booker. That's 10 people. Just off the top of my head, I'm sure I forgot a couple of guys, but there are 10 people right off the bat. And Jason Tatum, I don't even think I mentioned him on Jalen Brown's own team, that are better than Jalen Brown at this moment and probably will be next season. Now, can Jalen Brown still improve? Yeah, he's still super young. I think people are forgetting that he is still, entering his prime. There's a lot of spots that Jalen Brown can and I hope will improve in, but ultimately I don't think it will be enough to push him to top 10, although I do think he's gotten a bit underrated by most people after the way the Celtics ended their season. Next take comes from Cody, who says that Tyrese Maxiell will take another major leap this season and become one of the league's top guards under Nick Nurse as the Sixers win the finals. This is a pretty loaded one, and one thing I will say to begin this take is that I do think Tyrese Maxiell kind of is the X factor for the Sixers going forward. You're still going to have Joel Embiid, an MVP candidate. We don't know if they're going to have James Harden there or not, but I think either way, Maxey is really going to be the deciding factor for how far the Sixers team can go. You know what you're going to get from Joel Embiid. Of course, you'd like to see him be a bit more consistent in the playoffs, which I think he can be, but you kind of have an idea of what you're going to get from Joel, whether James Harden leaves or stays. If he leaves, you need Maxey to step up even bigger as the new lead guard. If he stays, you kind of know what you're going to get from James Harden too, so Maxey is that X factor regardless of what happens. I do think he still has another leap in the tank. I mean, he's heading into only his 4th season now in the league. It feels like he's been here for a lot longer, but he's already incredibly efficient. He's the fastest player in the league some nights. It feels like it's him and De'Aaron Fox as the fastest guys in the NBA. He's able to get to the basket in a blur, knock down floaters, mid-range jumpers. If he could round out his game a bit more beyond the offensive side in terms of his defense, his playmaking too, Maxey could become one of the league's best guards. Now, I don't know whether that's a top 10 guard or a top 5 guard that you're talking about, but I do think Maxey still has another leap in the tank, and hopefully Nick Nurse helps him kind of find that so that the Sixers can again be championship contenders, whether or not James Harden stays or goes. Following that, we have a take from Finisher241, who says that the Minnesota Timberwolves will be a top 3 seed next year, alongside Rudy Gobert getting Defensive Player of the Year. This is basically a take I had going into this season. I thought the Wolves, would be the 2nd seed is where I predicted them to land. I thought they'd be one of those great regular season teams that in the playoffs it just isn't good enough to get it done. I thought Denver, the Clippers in particular, those two squads, the Golden State Warriors of course too, would just be a bit better, but that the Wolves would really make a statement in this first year. Of course, that's not the way they went. They ended up being a play-in team. They finished as the 8th seed through the play-in tournament and lost to Denver in the first round. Now, they gave Denver a really tough time. Anthony Edwards is one of the brightest young stars in the league. McDaniels is a rising, future Defensive Player of the Year caliber player. Rudy Gobert, I picked to win DPOY this season. Didn't end up working out. He missed some time with injury, as did Karl Anthony Towns. And despite all the injuries, I still felt like Minnesota had a pretty solid year. I liked what Mike Conley brought to the table as well. well as the veteran point guard down the home stretch. So maybe they could, put everything together this season and make it happen, but I don't want to predict that purely because they burned me this time. I do think they're getting a bit underrated in that Western Conference and will again be in conversations for one of the better teams. But at the same time, I do still worry about some of their holes. Is the Cat Gobert frontcourt really ever going to work long term? If you ask me, I think the Wolves should explore trading Karl Anthony Towns now rather than later. I think his value is probably the highest it's ever going to be. Now, will they actually move him? I don't think so. I would put it at like a 90% chance that he's on this roster heading into next season. But maybe if things aren't working out by the trade deadline, we see those conversations spike a bit as maybe the Wolves gear themselves to rather build around Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, and the rest of the young guys on that roster and trade Cat for a player that better fits the core that they might want to have going forward. Now we've got a take from LakeShow_18 who says that Kyrie Irving will leave Dallas and join the Suns, not the Lakers, forming a big three of Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, which would be a crazy trio to have over there in Phoenix. Now, there's a couple of things that I have a problem with, but I real quick want to say, I think this would be a great move for Phoenix. I like the idea of that trio over there. They probably need a new starting point guard. Chris Paul is getting really old. He's still injury prone, and I think at this point, he's probably better in a bench role rather than being one of your lead ball handlers, although the playmaking is still fantastic, and it seems like they're kind of trying to go that way. They're trying to find a new starting point guard, as well as trying to figure out what to do with DeAndre Ayton, who feels like his time as a Phoenix Sun is probably over. So, if Dallas is either interested in getting Luka another ball handler next to him in Chris Paul, or probably a lot more likely a center in DeAndre Ayton, maybe they would be interested in some sort of sign and trade. I'm sure Dallas would also look for some draft compensation back, but maybe that's a route that the Mavericks go to try and stay competitive, even if Kyrie Irving leaves. Although, according to some rumors, the Mavericks have no interest in helping Kyrie Irving in any type of sign-and trade, which I think would be understandable because that limits Kyrie's options a lot in terms of trying to leave your team. If Kyrie isn't able to fit into the cap space of a Lakers or a Suns, then he'll probably just go back to Dallas, which honestly, if you ask me, is the outcome I think we're going to get. But thinking about a big three of Kyrie, KD, and Book over there in the Western Conference, that would be so incredibly fun. The matchup between them and the Denver Nuggets potentially in the conference finals, second round, whatever they end up facing off in, would be so much fun to watch because now the Suns would have a lot more firepower with a high-level championship point guard in the backcourt next to Devin Booker. Of course, they've still got to fill out the rest of the roster, but I do think that team could be incredibly successful, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's something Phoenix tries to pursue, even though I think Kyrie probably just ends up back in Dallas, which is the most likely outcome. Now we've got a take from Cubic who says that the Thunder will be a top 4 seed as Shea wins the MVP award. I would love to agree with this take. If you know me, I'm a massive Thunder fan, and I do think we're going to surprise a lot of people next season and make the NBA playoffs outright, although I don't know if top 4 seed is quite how far we're going to get. I do think it's going to depend a lot on what Chet looks like in his rookie season. If he's as good as I think he can be, then we could be in those conversations because I think between him, what Shea showed he can do defensively, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, I think the Thunder can be a top 10 pretty comfortably defense, if not top 8, maybe even top 5, if everything really clicks. I think we'd have to add maybe a veteran piece in the offseason too to kind of bolster the roster a little bit. But if Shea takes another jump, Giddey takes a leap, J-Dub does, Chet looks good, and everything kind of clicks, I do think there is a route to us being one of the best teams in the Western Conference next season. If I had to make a prediction, I think 6 or 5 are a lot more likely. Although if everything really breaks our way, I don't think 4 is out of the question, which would unquestionably put Shea in some MVP conversations. And finally, we have a take from Jordan who says that the Nuggets are going to win the title this year, repeat next year, and Jokic and the Nuggets have a dynasty in the making. I will say I think they're going to end up winning this year. I'm recording this video the day of Game 2 of the NBA Finals, so right now the Nuggets are up 1-0, and I'm feeling pretty confident that they're going to finish off this series. I picked them to win in 6 games, and I do still think they end up winning in 6 or maybe even 5 because I was really impressed with what they did in Game 1, but I'm not going to count Miami out, so I don't know what's going to happen, even though I do think Denver finishes this off. But I will say that repeating is really difficult. It feels like the NBA has a ton of parity at the moment. I think a lot of teams are in position to have phenomenal next seasons. There's some young teams on the come up as well. And really just staying healthy and repeating at all in the National Basketball Association is really, really difficult. I do think the Nuggets, if they win these finals, will be the favorites going into next season, and rightfully so because Jokic is the best player in the world at this point, and the roster is incredibly well built and pretty young too. but also I think it's just really difficult to repeat, so I'm not going to say that they're going to for sure, but I do think this Denver team is well set up to be one of the best teams in the league and a championship favorite for years to come. With all that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. Go ahead and comment down below, again, some of your hottest takes that I'll react to, as many as I can. Also, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps the channel out a ton. And also, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on any of these videos. You'll be getting a video tomorrow, if you're seeing this the day it comes out, about Game 2 of the NBA Finals, so make sure not to miss out on that. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. A real one, say it back.